My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is sewn up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation, and welcome back to the United Ones podcast, episode number 91. We're closing in on 100. I can't believe you guys actually listened to us for almost 100 episodes so far. That being said, as a reminder, we are the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous, yes, that's infamous rapper, our resident influencer and IG star, shooting the breeze, talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, X, and check out the 70 plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, Big 12 Huddle, etc. With that being said, we are missing Nobra this week, so you aren't getting that glorious hair. So I'm going to try to make up for it with this. I mean, I'm not wearing a hat this week because somebody had to, do the hair flip. Although mine doesn't move. That being said, we'll bring the boys here in just a second. This week, we're going to be talking about a lot of football news. There's a lot that's going on. We had 2 new verbal commits since last week that we'll be highlighting. We'll talk about we had a flip, a potential flip that's coming down the pipeline as well. We've got some folks that were on set and we're on campus this week for the 20th, including some people that we'll talk about the new Unis that will be debuting tomorrow at 9:30. So if you're watching this live, you'll see those new Unis tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern. Tommy C talking a little trash. CBS Sports signing on to the pack. Athalon Sports rates Scottfrost as a B+ hire. The Board of Governors passed an amendment that enables the state schools to officially participate in the $20 million per year rev share agreement. Ben's going to give us a baseball review for this past year. We talk a little bit about baseball coaching because there's a little bit of baseball coaching going on. Wisconsin sues Miami in the first lawsuit for poaching other players, so that'll be interesting. We had 2 UCF commits named to All-State Baseball team. We'll give a little listener love, and Josh will, talk about all the sports that Alan does not watch. So without further ado, now that you know everything that we're going to do, let me go ahead and bring the team on board. We'll start with Ben Stout, who we haven't seen in ages. What's up, Ben?
What's up? What's up? Glad to be back with you guys. Thanks for having me back. It's been too long.
It has been too long. I thought you retired there for a minute, but the tallest man in podcasting rides again. Next to the stage, we've got Trey Neal. What's up, Trey? Welcome back to the show, bro. He's frozen. All right. And last but not least, we'll go with Josh Lazar.
Hello, world. That is so fitting. It is so fitting that Trey, actually, he was here a couple of weeks ago, so it's not as long as Ben, but right out the gate, nothing.
Yeah. We got to take a picture of that screenshot because he looks confused on that screenshot. So somebody grab that snap. We'll post it on our X profile. But without further ado, I'm glad you guys are back. We're missing Nobra this week. Ben, can you give me a hair flip?
That's all. I don't have much hair movement either.
Yeah, no, we're doing the best we can. We're without Alan. We're without Nobra, so we're doing the best we can with what we've got. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. There goes Trey. Is he back?
He's in here.
He's
there.
There he is.
There he is. Hey, Trey.
Gentlemen, what's up?
Welcome
How you guys
to the show.
doing, man? Thought I was in, but it was lagging somewhere crazy. So.
Oh no, you were in. You were just frozen on the screen,
Yeah, I had to.
I didn't even see him on the screen. It was just like a black screen. So.
Oh, I saw him. He looked frozen on the screen. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal was with that. But I'm glad you're back. Some of your friends are back. on campus. So we'll talk about that this week.
Yeah, man.
But before we get into that, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about our 2 new UCF football commits. The first one is Preston Hall, a linebacker. He's 6'3", 215. Again, when we talked about it last week, we are looking at that mold. He's a little bit taller than what we've been getting before. 215, that means he's got some weight that he can gain. He's from Ridgepoint, Missouri City, Texas. So Texas recruit. We've been getting them from all over the place. We'll talk a little bit later about some more from the Northeast. We talked about a Connecticut one. What was that, last week or the week before last? So we're recruiting everywhere. He is kind of under the radar as far as recruiting is concerned. He's got offers from UCF, obviously, Arky State, Colorado State, Howard, and Lamar. However, he's also runs a 4.5 40. So for a linebacker of that size to run a 4.5 40 is a pretty big deal. And I expect he's going to have a lot more people that we're going to have to compete with as the recruiting season rages on.
How does he know he runs a 4.5 40? Like, where did that come from? Like, it's just,
he was timed, and it was in an article, so I found it.
It's
research, Ben. It's research.
It's just like height and weight in like high school basketball. Like you always it's got to be true, right? Because they wrote it down.
Well, we know you did a 10.5 40 in high school. So,
I was lucky.
Yeah, we're good there. But he's actually a son of a former NFL player, Tennessee Titans fullback and Texas Longhorn Ahmad Hall, believe it or not. He's recorded 33 tackles, 13.5 for a loss, 4 sacks, 4 quarterback hurries as a junior. So he's been really active. He had a bunch more people that were recruiting him, including San Diego State, San Jose State, etc. But what I liked about him, I watched a little bit of film on him because he did commit. Like I said, speed definitely jumped out on tape, which is good, especially for us in the schemes that we like to play on defense. He's got good height, and he's going to fill out at 215. If he's at 6'3", he's probably going to fill out to somewhere between 230, 225, 230, maybe 235, somewhere around there as a linebacker. So he may lose some of that speed. But he's still got that speed and athleticism to build off of as well as the frame. So excited about that one. The next one that we have to talk about is another linebacker who's 6'3", 225. So again, a little bit larger than what we have been getting. His name, and I'm gonna murder this. So Josh, it's Matthew Occhipinti. Something like that. All right. He's from Don Brosco. I don't know why they didn't go Donnie Brosco Prep. I mean, come on. Out of Ramsey, New Jersey.
Good. That's a really, really good school.
It's a very, very, very good school.
Yeah.
He's 6'3", and he actually had a lot more offers. He had UCF, Air Force, Army, Cincy, Maryland, Louisville, Navy, North Carolina, Temple, Tulane, Wake Forest, West Virginia, and Rutgers. And he did visit West Virginia, but he still ended up here at UCF. So that's exciting. When you look at him, he's not as fast, but he's one of those guys, middle linebacker type of guys, and he can run on the D end occasionally, but he's typically playing middle linebacker. That he's good in space and he's got good frame. So I expect a lot of really, really good things out of him. And being at that school and, with the offer list, I expect that'll be good. And we need it because we did lose a few linebacker commits this week as well.
Never have enough linebackers. That's for sure.
No, I mean, it's the one position. It's the one position that we talk about every single year. And Trey and Ben, you can both attest to that, right?
Yeah.
Like we talk about them every single year, how that's a need for us. But I think both of these guys are actually pretty good gets as far as the linebacker recruits are concerned. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I find it. So Preston Hall, Brandon Hellwig called him on Twitter last night that he called him potentially the steal of the class. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I mean, obviously he Brandon was very excited about him committing to UCF. So that's good enough for me. Let's put it that way. I do kind of find it interesting that Matthew, how do you say his last name?
You really want me to do that again?
Occhipinti or whatever. Occhipinti. We got to get Andrew. We got to get Andrew Fagley on here to say this guy's name.
He said he's coming back for football season. I'm giving him all the hard names whenever.
Yeah. We got to get him to say this guy's last name. But the other thing I'll just quickly comment about it because I don't know too much about these two guys aside for what Brandon said about Preston Hall is. One's from Texas, one's from New Jersey. I mean, we're kind of stretching our legs a little bit as far as where we're finding these recruits. And I think that while we obviously always want to kind of, build a wall around that I-4 corridor and really just kind of create the state of Orlando. But by the same token, going out and finding the right players for this system out there no matter where they're from is I don't look at that as a bad thing. So I'm excited about that as well.
Yeah, that we're definitely looking at athleticism. We kind of talked about that the last few weeks is we're looking at athleticism and they're looking for their type of athlete. Doesn't matter what the star rating is. They're looking for a specific type of athlete. Most of them are dual sport athletes. Most of them are guys that have speed. So you're definitely seeing that lean, not the lean back, but the lean back into that in that speed category. Now, obviously, Trey was not that speedster, but we're definitely looking at that again. And I want to take a quick moment because Alan did pop into the show. So we're 5 for 5 this week, guys. 5 for 5.
Hey.
Excited.
Yeah, full house finally.
Yeah. Well, we need the patented hair flip.
Got a hat on.
Right.
Take it off. Take it off. Come on, take it off. There it is. All right.
He's the only one with enough hair to do it.
Someone with longer hair whose hair actually moves. We need that. Nobra's not here this week. All right. So we just ran through the 2 commits. We also have a flip alert. Arthur Art Lewis, the 4th. So he's a 5'10", 182-pound back from Jacksonville, from Bartram Trail High School. And he has been pledged to Liberty, believe it or not, since March, which Liberty, if you guys don't know, has a sizable paycheck to pay people. The Knights, look like they have left a real solid impression. He rushed for 1,666 yards, 21 touchdowns on 149 carries for the season. He also caught 21 passes for 244 yards and 3 more scores as a junior. He's a burst guy, so he's one of those speed guys. He's going to be an edge runner, short, fast guy that's going to run around the edge and give you some options when you're looking to stretch the field a little bit. His style when he compared himself was more towards Jaden Nixon, which is already a UCF recruit, 4-star guy from last year. So in his words, his strengths are making you miss, using my speed to get outside, and catching out of the backfield. So again, this is that combo back kind of guy that we were looking for, so that we have a few options that we've been talking about. And he has since the crystal ball has been taken away from a certain website from Liberty, and it's expected that he's going to commit on Monday. So we should have another commit alert on Monday for Art Lewis. So make sure you're keeping an eye on that. In addition to that, June 20th, which was this past weekend, we had another weekend of official visits. So the official visits this week, we'll just run through those real quick. Again, we didn't watch any tape, but the first one you guys should know, Kane Archer, who was already a verbal commit to us, was on campus this season, right? So he's our guy out of Greenwood, Arkansas, that we kind of see as the quarterback of the future. He was the Arkansas 2024 Gatorade and Max Prep Player of the Year, won 26 consecutive victories completed a national record 81.5% of his passes for 3,880 yards and 57 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions while rushing for 795 yards. I mean, I get it. It's Arkansas, but that's really impressive.
Arkansas isn't that bad of a Arkansas's not that bad of a football state. I mean, they're pretty committed to their at least to one specific school.
They are, and he's rated right now as a 5.7 by Rivals. I expect him to go up. Number 9 in the state and number 47 at the position. So Kane Archer is a guy, if we can incorporate him in, that's a guy in our quarterback room that we really want to see succeed. Next, we've got Charlie Gillick. He's a 6'5", 240-pound tight end from Michigan, Portage, Michigan. So Arkansas, we've had Texas today. We've had Arkansas. We've had Michigan. He's a 5.5 4-star, 3-star, which is about what you get for a typical tight end recruit. They're not going to be 4 stars unless they're super special. He's like I said, 6'5", 240 pounds, and he played defense and is one of the best linebackers that's out there. So his last season as a linebacker, 104 tackles, 8 TFLs, 3 sacks, an interception, 4 pass breakups, and 1 forced fumble and fumble recovery. So this is, again, a guy who can play on both sides of the ball, which is awesome. Then we've got he's a verbal commit. Then we've also got Jakari Jackson. We've heard about him before out of Olympia. So he's a quarterback and wide receiver. So the rest of the guys here, there's 5 other guys that are not committed to UCF that joined this weekend, which was Arthur Lewis, who we just talked about. Super exciting. I think we're going to be able to, I have a feeling we're going to have a commitment on Monday, wink. And just so you know, he also had offers from Iowa State, the Cows, ECU, Marshall, App State, and Georgia Southern. Next, we have Jafar Jean Noel, 5'10", 170-pound wide receiver out of American Heritage. He's a 5.7 rating. He was a prior commitment to West Virginia. So he's a guy that was committed to West Virginia, opened up. He's got official visits he's taken to Purdue, Georgia Tech, Pittsburgh, and Kentucky. Pittsburgh, again, we're running into 34 catches for 505 yards. Grant Kuhlman, Nebraska guy, 6'6", 250-pound defensive end from Wilbur, Nebraska. He's one of those guys that is a brainiac. So he's got offers from Harvard, Columbia, Wyoming, North Dakota State, South Dakota State. But he's kind of one of these under the radar guys, good size, typical type of defensive end or lineman that you're going to see from Nebraska. We talked about Preston Hall, who officially committed after this weekend. And then we also have Eshawn Sutton, 6'1", 190-pound safety out of Winter Park, currently committed to Syracuse, of all places. I don't know why you would commit to Syracuse if you're from Winter Park, Florida. However, he's been committed there since March. Came here. He also has offers from Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, and Pittsburgh. He plays both ways at Winter Park, but he's projecting as a safety. So kind of the same type of body type, et cetera, as you, Trey, when you were in high school. So, someone to keep an eye on as we move along in the recruiting process. So we've got 2 commits, a flip alert, and several other recruits that we need to be looking out for. We did, however, this week lose a recruit, 4-star Tyron Wortham to Michigan State, unfortunately. So womp, womp, womp. But again, guys, it's 6 months. We've got 9 weeks to the season, 6 months until the end of the recruiting cycle, and a long way to go with some of these recruits. So you'll see some more movement as far as that's concerned. Anything else you guys want to talk about from the recruiting aspect so far? All right, cool. Alan, anything from you?
No, I mean, you guys hit it. It's been, I think, decent class so far. Hard to know what it's going to look like here at the end, but tough couple. I thought that Wortham loss was one of our better recruits on paper, so I thought that was a tough loss. But to get 3 more recruits this weekend, we still have a long time before this class closes out. But I think it's off to a decent start, all things considered, when Frost arrived versus him just kind of getting back into the new era of college football. So I think we waited out to the end. And actually, a little preview during my fun fact of the week, I'm going to be kind of comparing his first 2 classes. So, but overall, I'm enthused.
Well, he better be. Do you mean first 2 classes, like his first class?
Sorry, first class in his first stint here, and then his first class in his return stint is what I meant. Sorry.
Well, I hope he's recruiting at a higher level than he did in 2016 when we were in the AAC. I'm just saying. So I'm on pins and needles. I'm on pins and needles to hear about that one. That one actually is going to interest me. All right, let's go ahead and switch it to other UCF news. New unis are dropping tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. So 9:30 a.m. Look at UCF equipment. We'll be posting new unis. What are you guys looking for out of the new unis? I think everybody. I mean, you had the blackout jerseys. What is the night mode and then light mode that were new, and I actually kind of liked them both. I think they both looked clean, but outside of that, no excitement on that. Do you think Scottfrost had tapped his Uncle Phil to see if he could maybe sweeten the pot again like he did the first time around, or is that a next year kind of thing?
I'm more excited about the people inside the jerseys, but no. The reality is that I'm looking for something fun, like a big orange squeezer or Citronaut or something. No,
I want an orange jersey. I'm with you.
I feel like I know it's hard because of
those would sell.
They would sell. But the thing is, you have like the other organizations in this state that also have that in their colors, but
Miami.
No.
And the Gators.
Yeah, but I feel like that would be. It's not going to happen. But something cool, something fun for the space game. Just truth be told, I want something that the athletes and they're student athletes, but I'll lean towards athletes. The athletes are really excited about. Athletes are really excited about. I know.
I will say this: if they do a squeezer style uniform at any point, they better not do it like the Gators did with the Gator skin and do like orange peel or something on like the outside of the jersey for the texture. That would be terrible. I don't know how you would do a good one that way, but I definitely would be excited to see what they come up with for a squeezer jersey. Trey, what do you think? I mean, you're a former player. What do you want to see out of these jerseys, and what would the players be excited about?
Yeah, I mean, I think all the players always want super cool white. You always want the blackout. I don't know. This is like we didn't want gold when we were playing. Like all we wanted was black. But now, when Frost got here, we got every version anthracite. We had a light gray, we had a dark gray.
Dude, I loved anthracite. That was
so I mean, even I feel like they have everything. Anything else they get, it wouldn't be like the colors. Like the only thing I was thinking was maybe an orange, because that's the only one. I don't know how you'd kind of tie it in besides the Citronaut, but other than that, they have all the cool jersey as they can with the colors.
But they stripped them down. Right? Because when Frost was here the first time, we had the silver, we had that gray, we had the anthracite,
light gray,
we had white.
We got rid of gold.
Well, yeah, that was George O'Leary thing. But I will say this: I have never been a fan of the gold, other than back in the 80s, maybe that actually looked kind of cool. But I will say this, Rich. I don't know if you remember, Coach Wally came on the show and he was talking to us about the gold jerseys, and he was like, are you guys excited about gold jerseys because I'm bringing gold back? And I'm like, oh boy, well, this is going to go bad. However, I'm not going to say and they did a great job with those jerseys. They really did. I liked the gold color in the baseball jerseys. I don't know what you're going to do for football, but
I agree. That's the thing. I think gold looks good in baseball. I
it
think
may
it's
be too
hard
much for football.
Yeah, and like it's hard to match the helmets. Like that's the worst part for me is like the helmets never have matched the gold. If you try to go all gold, you have to contrast it. Like you have to.
Yeah, I've always liked the black on black uniforms with the gold jerseys. Like the more recent versions of that, I thought looked really good. So, yeah, that's one of the things I like gold on the helmet, and I like gold as like an accent on the jerseys and uniforms themselves. But it is a little difficult to incorporate it as the like main thing of a jersey. I mean, gold on gold is certainly the roughest part, but I don't necessarily have an issue with gold pants or with or vice versa. Like gold pants with a black jersey or vice versa. So
it's just you can't go all gold. You can't go all gold.
I will say though, just the only other thing I'm going to say about uniforms is that I think no matter what, the fan base is going to be a little bit disappointed, or they're not going to like it. Like don't expect too much out of 9:30 tomorrow morning Eastern time. Like I just don't expect too much. It's probably going to be a small change. Yeah. It's not going to be like when Frost came here the first time and we, finally got names on the back of our uniforms.
Right.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, like we have pretty modern jerseys relative to college football. Like I think we're like an upper tier jersey combinations in college football, whereas when he first got here, we were probably like bottom tier. Like we were with like Alabama. So like that jump was huge. Whereas now it's kind of again like the expectations.
But see, I disagree with you because we reverted so much. We didn't have as many jersey combos as we did before. Now, again, like I said, the all whites were tough. I like the what was it again? The night out or whatever it was. Yeah. All black ones that they did. I like those. But we really didn't have a whole lot of variety. I mean, it's not that they looked bad, that we just didn't have a whole lot of variety. Even if you added 4 or 5 additional combos, the reason Danny White did that was for jersey sales, because people would then buy the other colors. And it's a smart move. We're coming into the money again because we're going to get paid quarterly. So go ahead and investing in that stuff is important, because people forget the school has to put the outlay most of the time for the jerseys, right? So Nike will give you X amount, and depending on your school and the notoriety and all of that stuff, they'll give you more. However, the school still has to pay for that, right? So I feel like now we're getting the full shares. Let's go ahead and like get back to Drip U. You know what I mean? We do a great job with the space game, but I feel like we've fallen off the map with the Drip U on the uniform. On the uniform combos. Alan, what do you think? I'm interested. I bet you have something to contribute here. I do like the white and blue, Canaveral blue basketball jerseys. Those were hot last year. I really like those. Yeah. Alan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've said on the show before, I'm not like a big uniform guy. So like I completely understand why players get into them and why recruits, and it's kind of something that there's some pride in it, and it does help with recruiting to a degree, I guess, but I just don't really get excited by them one way or the other. I can objectively say our uniforms are better than when I was in school, when we had the the horrible piss yellow uniforms and like whatever that combo was we wore in that famous game against the Cows in 2012
2013. They were supposed to be all black.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so they're just better than that. I mean, to be honest with you, maybe I just don't have an eye for it, but like I don't really think they've changed that much from the first Frost era to now. There's still plenty of cool combinations, in my opinion. The space game still wins awards every year for best uniforms. So to me, like they're cool, they're fine. Like, and if they debut something horrible or amazing tomorrow, I don't really care. I mean,
we do a good job with the helmets. Like the equipment team does a great job with the helmets.
I think all of uniforms are cool. I mean, they're fine. Yeah. Like they're good. They're,
it's basically,
I don't need to be Oregon, what?
It's basically black and white now, and just different combinations of black and white. That's what I'm saying. I like They are, but I liked when we had anthracite and the gray and
Agreed.
whatever. I've got all those jerseys up in my closet right now.
Yeah, would it hurt to be more creative and like add more stuff? Absolutely not. I just don't. If it doesn't, it's like I don't think it's a big deal, you know.
All right, so Alan's womp on that. Ben, do you want to add anything to this before we swiv it yet again?
No, I mean, well, I'm cautiously, excited about what I'll see tomorrow. But again, I'm not a big uniform guy either. I'm kind of in Alan's camp here. I mean, I think they're cool. I'm glad we win awards, almost every year. I agree with Alan as well when it comes to we had the splash when Scottfrost first came here, and then it's been minor tweaks since. All of them I've liked for the most part. We'll see what we get tomorrow, and I'll be happy with it probably either way, and I'm sure 90% of the fan base will be upset with it either way. So it's all good.
Yeah, well, that's what we do. Universal fans, right?
I think now too, like the buildup of the space game, like they don't reveal everything either. Like this point, like they have the space game unis that they save. I'm sure they're going to save that Citronaut jerk. Like, I don't think they're going to show
for
that.
Military appreciation will be saved. I mean, this is like the main uniform combos, right?
This will probably, this will be like if we have 12 games, 13 games, hopefully more than that. This is probably going to be like
the championship
ones. Yeah, like these would be the all black, the all white, and maybe one accent. But like we're probably going to get two more, the space game, and then some version of the Citronaut, however they want to tie it in. Like that's.
I mean, their little Twitter announcement today had you could definitely tell it was a gold helmet. They're trying to prep us. They're trying to prep us.
Well, I love the gold helmets we did like the last few years too. Like they're slick, yeah, and they have been for a while. But, for me, and just to add my 2 cents, I want to see some variety in colors. We don't have to have like the 1,300 different combinations that we had during the Frost era, but I do want to see some more color combinations. I want anthracite back. I loved anthracite. Like, I absolutely loved that color. So for me, I know it's too late in the design process, so Terry Mahajer cannot change it. But I would love anthracite. And I hope Scottfrost has tapped his boy Phil and got us some more unis. And
isn't Terry on record saying he didn't like anthracite, or is it just the odd man out?
He was like, no. He said we want to get back to our basic color combinations, which are black and gold. Realistically speaking, it was a money savings issue. Yeah, I mean, let's be real. That's
we got money now.
But we got money now, boys. We made it. All right, let's go ahead and swiv it off of the unis. So I guess we'll come back to this next week and see what we thought. Let's talk about Tommy C talking some trash. Do you guys remember Tommy Castellanos?
Of course.
Yes. So Gus Malzahn kind of ran him off. He went to Boston College. He did well his first season. Last season, he ended up with a 38 QBR, and he has been reunited with the Gus Bus in Tallahassee. And he's talking trash. So their first game next year is actually against Alabama. So he was trash talking Alabama, and then he was trash talking the rest of the ACC that he was running through them before when he was at BC. So, I'm all for it, but bro, you had a 38 QBR last year. Like, I know he had some injuries, but like legit, you may want to hold up on trying to, call out Alabama. He basically said they don't have Saban anymore. So, oh, bro, like you're going to FSU, a team that was, how many wins did they have last year?
2, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, less than UCF. So, Tommy C, love you, bro. I think you would have done well here. I wish you would have hung on a little bit longer. I understand why you didn't, but not a good idea. Josh, you'd mentioned earlier that we were talking about the pack, whatever they are now, the G6 pack, signed a contract or their first contract. So let's talk about that. They signed with CBS Sports, and they're going to basically take their championship game for the pack. They're going to take basketball games for the pack. So I'm sorry, whoever those pack fans are, San Diego States of the world and all of those folks. I apologize because your basketball games are now 4 hours and 45 minutes and full of commercials. So
yes.
Sorry for the players. Sorry for the fans. Sorry for everybody, but that sucks. Anything else that you wanted to fill in on there? Because this is the start. They're still on the market for the rest of their games. Yeah. This is the start, and they need this to be able to close the deal to start bringing in the other folks.
Yeah, I mean, member number 8. Yeah, we talked about this before the show, and I agree with Roger's assessment. It doesn't mean too much without the financial details, and they were not disclosed. There might be a reason for that, but it's not bad for what you have. It's 4 football games, 4 men's basketball games per season on CBS, so that's not that bad. They do have other deals with CW, ESPN, and CBS for the upcoming season. This is for 2026 to 2031. So they have that.
If you are next to, and I'll say this about the ACC too, if you are next to reruns of Dawson's Creek, I'm sorry, that's not a good media rights deal. I hate to say that.
Vanderbeek is solid. So look, gotta get some callbacks. I will say this. I feel like this is probably step 1 in probably the last steps of getting that 8th that 8th team, whether it's Sacramento State, who might be going independent, they've talked about, whether it's trying to pull in Memphis, RIP Fred Davis. I don't know what it's going to be, but they needed this. Like, you will be seen on TV. It might take 400 hours on CBS Sports Network, but you will be seen on TV and other linear and online packages. So I feel like this is
the range for them, so kind of thinking about where we would be if we weren't in the Big 12, right? The range for them is between 8 and 14 million, tops out at 14 million with all in, meaning all bowl revenue, if they make the playoff revenue, you're tapping out at 14 million. So you think about teams like Oregon State, you think about teams like Washington State, where they were and where they are, that could have been us. And so, the AAC, I think they paid out like 11 million last year. Thank goodness that we got the call up and we put the effort in and we didn't misspell research on our proposal for the Big 12. Because we would be up the creek without a paddle without this. Yeah. This is what we'd be looking at.
Well, I mean, and if they got to like 14, 15 million, I think they'd be on the high end of what's left. That's kind of amazing of what's going on. Like, there are side rumors of ECU being courted for the Sun Belt or considering it, or maybe it's all rumor, which would make more sense with who's in the Sun Belt. But this is what we all left behind. And I thank goodness is a great way of putting it. I'd probably be a little more verbose and probably with some other.
I would, but we are a clean show, Josh. We are a clean show.
We pulled up the ladder. I don't think anyone else is getting into this stage unless they can bring along maybe a billionaire or two to come in like SMU.
Listen, unless you're pulling an SMU, you're not getting into the P5.
I think it's done. I think it's done.
I think it's done. So, and that's great for UCF. Now we just got to do something for it, right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, we move every 8 years. I've said this ad nauseum. We move up every 8 years on average. That's what we've done throughout our history, from D3 all the way to where we are today, right? And we cannot rest on our laurels. So now that we've got an infusion of cash, we've got to start doing something with it to move forward. That being said, let's go ahead and switch it and talk a little bit about Scottfrost and Athalon Sports, who came out with a rating for Scottfrost. We talked about Scottfrost and what others thought. A lot of them thought there was one, I can't remember who it was, said that he was the worst coach in the Big 12. Well, Athalon Sports rates Scottfrost as a B+ hire. What they say is usually the trend of hiring the former coach back when the program was in a different league doesn't pan out the way boosters think. This is from a coach. Bobby Petrino coming back to Louisville, for instance. And did you notice I said that correctly? It's not Louisville. It's not Louisville. It's Louisville. But I think this is a situation where it might be good for both parties. Scottfrost and UCF can put each other back on the map. The talent level is higher in the Big 12, but the personnel and schematic blueprint he used the last time can still work. And I think that's important. And here's the point I want to make on that. Scott Frost's system, the Big 12 last year, and we've mentioned this before, was a running league. It was a power running league the last few years. So Scott Frost's system can work. Now, the bad part about this is we cannot get behind. So the offense has to pretty much score in every drive. If we get behind in any one of these games, it's going to be a problem, right? Now, we do have better running backs now than what we had back then. But if we're going to run the up-tempo type style offense, we've got to, we can win a whole lot of games if we do that, but we cannot get behind. That's the most important thing there. And Trey, I think it's even more difficult than when you guys did it in 2017, because a lot of those close games that you guys had, or those come from behind in the third, fourth quarter, because again, we wore them out the first two quarters. Schematically, we showed them stuff the first two quarters, then we did something different third and fourth quarter and scored on them, right? You cannot.
What year was that?
In the Big 12.
We were blowing the doors off of teams then.
No, I know you were. Like UConn, for example, when I baked in the stadium in the walk for like, it was like 110 degrees and like, I don't know what it was like for you guys on the field, but when we played UConn at home, it was ridiculous. Yeah. It was like 64 or whatever.
It was a quarterback, number 5. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
Couldn't throw.
Well, I can tell you what was not very good, which was the heat while I was watching you guys win that game. It was hot. Complete opposite of the George O'Leary Hintergate game, right? But yeah, no, it's you guys were blowing the doors off, and we were scoring first. 2016, we didn't. 2017, we were basically scoring. We would take the ball first, score on the first drive, and then try to keep that tempo going. And we didn't miss very often in 2017 because Mackenzie Milton was dialed in, the offense was, but there were times that we were behind that we had to catch up towards the end. And we cannot do that in the Big 12 because the level of play, both offensively and defensively, is a whole lot different than what the AAC was. And may I remind you, we were the top spending team in the AAC. So we were the Texas Tech or the Texas of the Big 12 when they were here.
You're talking about like recently, like the last year we were in the AAC.
Pretty much the whole time we were in the AAC. We were the number 1 or number 2 athletic department as far as.
Okay, gotcha. I thought you were talking about football. I'm like, I didn't see any money, but
no, we didn't spend money on you. But as far as the program was concerned, yes,
I think it's just, to me, I'm big on you asserting your dominance, whether it's whether it's being a physical run team like Kansas we've seen in the past, like they're like, we're running the football no matter what. Show us you can stop it. Or it was, 2017 Frost we're talking about, whereas we're scoring points, you have to show us you can stop it, or you have to score with us to win. It's that simple. If you're not going to stop us, if we get 10 possessions, we're scoring on 8 to 9 of them. So you have to match it. Otherwise, you're going to lose. So I think it just depends. Is the talent better? I think throughout the league, I think the coaches are better. I just think if you're going to be, I think this was like my biggest thing is if you're going to be a up-tempo offense, live and die on the up-tempo offense. Don't be an up-tempo offense and then, you get down and you change everything. Just go balls to the wall with it. Just go ahead and do it. If you're going to be a run-heavy offense, be a run-heavy offense, but understand, like you're saying, understand the flaws that come with it. If you're going to be run-heavy, when you get behind, if you can't throw, you're done. That was, our main issues with Gus.
Well, you can't say that because Navy put you.
Well, we're talking outliers. Those are outliers. If you're running triple option in 2025, like you're an outlier school.
Bro. All I could tell you was I was at that game and I was not very happy.
There's such a different, like them Army. it's such a different, like, you can't even, a week isn't enough to prepare for it. Like, we were practicing that in the summer. But yeah, like, just stick to your guns. Don't try to be this hybrid of everything. Like, I think, you're a master of none, whatever that saying is. You can't do anything well. You're just good at everything, which, yeah, that's good surface level. But you look at all these teams ultimately we want to get to the college football playoff. They're dominant in something. Arizona State was dominant in something. All these elite level teams are dominant in something. Yeah, they're good at a lot. They're
Arizona State dominant in, because I don't really think they were dominant in anything. I mean, they had Cam Scattaboo, but I don't think they were dominant.
I think towards the end of towards the back half of the year, their offense was really good. I mean, it was running through Scattaboo, obviously, and again, he was a dominant player. But then you pair it with the quarterback coming along, some of their receivers, Tyson, he started to I think that's where it was. I wouldn't say they were dominant. You're right. But they were better than just good. They were starting to trend towards that really high productive, really, really high level offense. And I think that's just what I want. I just want to see, if you're going to be up tempo, be up tempo. Put the pressure on them. Don't just try to sit back and wait to respond. Like, apply that was what I always said was the best thing about Coach Frost. He was putting pressure on the other team, whether it was we went for 2 after every play, like no matter how you
single play.
Yeah, like what people don't understand, we didn't get it every time. But if you get it once, that automatically puts pressure on the other team to feel, all right, we have to match it. Like, because a touchdown and a field goal, you're still going to lose. You're losing. And if we keep doing, that's where I'm just like, put the pressure. And I think he lost a little of that edge at Nebraska thinking, this is a better conference. I can't do that. No, do it. If you're going to, this is how you see football.
Bro, he didn't have a QB. That's the problem.
No, but I'm saying, like, even just the philosophy. If you look at the years we were at UCF.
I thought you were going to say falafel there for a second.
No. If you look at the years when we were at UCF, how many times we went for 2? How many times we won on 4th down?
Yeah.
When we got to Nebraska, it was dramatically different. Now, could you attribute that to the talent level? Possibly. I think there's no reason. If you feel you're confident to go for it on 4th, go for it.
Trey, I don't even think it was talent level. I think it was the type of talent that you could attract there, right? So,
yeah, of course.
What was Nebraska known for? Running, right?
Yeah.
And so we were known for running as well, but we had a balanced attack. We set up the runs for long runs, right? So Scottfrost did a lot of scheming. I expect that to come back. You're seeing that in the type of talent that we're trying to recruit at the high school level now, as well. But what I don't see with Scottfrost is he even when he came back, he said, don't expect 2017's offense. Now, I don't know if that's gamesmanship or not.
No, I think he's telling the truth.
Because he said he learned a lot, right? And especially when he went to the Rams, because the Rams, they also run a lot of the NFL teams now. The high octane offenses are starting to run concepts from college. So I don't expect him to be like, if you're expecting the 2017 offense, it's not going to happen.
He won't be that. No.
I
just want him to, if he's going to be an aggressive coach, be an aggressive coach. Don't be a passive wait to respond. Like, oh, they're running the football, so we need to control it. Like, no, always do what you do best. Play to your player. That's what he always was great at. He played to his players' strengths. Well, like, that's at least when I saw it.
Did you see? Are you talking like this because you saw some like timidness or I should say maybe just uncertainty or hesitation when he was at Nebraska? Like, out of him, that it was different.
Yeah, like, to me, when we were at UCF, it was like a no-brainer. When we score a touchdown, we're lining up some kind of fake field goal, and if you give us the right look, we're going for it. Or we're going to just go for it anyway. When we cross the 50-yard line, it doesn't matter. Unless it's 4th and 40, we're not punting the ball. Like, we're going for it. Like, those were no-brainer decisions. We all understood that, from offense to even defense to even special teams. Like, it was a culture of, when we cross the 50, we're going. If we don't get it, oh well. But, like, that kind of pressure, that's a lot of pressure on the other team. When we got to Nebraska, we would cross that line and there would be hesitancy in the sense of, should we go? Should we not go? Granted, again,
Is
that conference is different. It is different.
Do you think Scottfrost was intimidated by the Big Ten Conference, or because it is known for defenses and it is known for like traditional running? Like,
yeah, it's a slower football game. It's so much slower. I wouldn't say it's intimidated. I think it was just overthinking. Like, you think so much, and that's why I like from my main point is just stick to your guns. Like, Coach Frost, you got this Nebraska job because of your high octane, aggressive style offense. You got there, you said, we're going to flip the Big Ten on its head because they haven't seen anything like it. But when we got there, we didn't necessarily live by those staples. You know, we weren't overly aggressive. We weren't like that. And I think that was just overthinking the room. I don't think he was intimidated by the coaches because he was very confident then. I haven't talked to him since then, but like he was extremely confident, same confidence. It's just he was more hesitant to do that. And that's all I wanted to do. I just want him to, be aggressive. If you're going to be an aggressive style offense, stay aggressive no matter who you're playing, because that's what's going to win you your games.
Yeah, when probably the last time I was on the show was when we hired Scottfrost. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, when Scottfrost was hired, we were all kind of going around and talking about this, and one of the main words that I just kept zeroing in on, and it's similar to the word that you keep zeroing in on it with aggression and being aggressive there, Trey. But I kept saying attack mode. You know, like really just like get UCF back to where the other team is constantly on their heels. Like we are always the ones attacking. Like, and it doesn't matter if the other team has the ball and we're on defense. Like, we're the ones that are always attacking. And so I agree with you there. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like Scott Frost would have came back to UCF where all of that, it didn't necessarily begin, but as a head coach, of course, it began for him. And come back here with knowing the fan base the way he does, and knowing, this place, as he says, the way he does, and not think that he's going to come back here with like a muted and I don't want to call it timid, but like a reserved approach. Like, I feel like he is coming back to instill that attack mode in a team that, honestly, I mean, I know that there's huge turnover on the roster and everything, but like, honestly, like a team last year that was not in that attack mode. It was always kind of conservative or lackadaisical or whatever it may be, and it just didn't feel like we were always in that attack mode. And I don't feel like he's here to hold back on those thought processes, or at least I'm optimistically hoping that way.
So Ben, like, it's what you're saying is bring the swag back, right? So like, that's what I think.
I think that was Josh's word. Josh's word was swag, I believe, when we bring the swag back.
Bring the swag back, number one, and number two, that was one of the comments that we had in our YouTube channel during the season last year. Was like, we were railing on Gus because we would get into a position where we were playing not to lose.
Right.
Win. And so we went back and forth with some listeners. If you go back and look at our history on the comment history, with some listeners who was like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with playing not to lose? Well, guess what? We lost those games. And again, I'm not bagging on that listener, right? You're 100% right. The NFL does the same thing too. But the team that we had last year needed that. If we got in a groove, they needed to keep exploiting the groove, because they did not have the intestinal fortitude, the culture, the whatever to continue to do that. If they started getting behind, it was over, right? So it's not just about stopping and maintaining that. It's about having that swag, having that confidence,
the edge to you.
That we're not going to lose this game. No matter what happens, we're not going to lose this game. We'll find a way. If we're down 2 scores in the fourth quarter, I don't care. We're going to win this game. That team last year didn't have that. And so playing not to lose ended up in a loss because they took them out of the groove, took them out of their timing, took them out of what was working. And that's what I want to see out of Coach Frost. I want him to have that fire on the I want the get back coach to be holding him back on the sideline when he's yelling at refs and he's red in the face and he's throwing his headset and his clipboard and everything else. It's the same thing I talk about with basketball and Johnny Dawkins. And I know that Ben disagrees with me. But I want that fire in the football because football is a passionate sport. Those players on the sideline to get that extra, to get that strain, as we talk about, to get that extra little bit, you need someone who can fire you up. You need that belief. You need that culture. You need to understand that you are not going to lose. And that is what we haven't had the past 2 or 3.
I've never understood how you can play football like not with that edge. It's too physical. Like the sport is too physical to not play with that edge. If you don't play with that edge, you're going to get hurt. Not literally get hurt, but it's just like boxing. Like playing on the defense, the only guy I've seen that really does that well is Floyd Mayweather in his latter years. But most of the time, the guy who's throwing the most punches is going to win. Besides,
if you don't believe you're going to win, if you don't have that edge, if you don't have that belief that no matter what, when the clock strikes 0, we're going to end up with a dub, you're going to lose. Especially
you've already lost. You've already
got to
lost.
have swag. You got to believe that it doesn't matter. You might. Okay, let's say it's a position battle and another guy is, on the other side of the field, he outweighs you 20 pounds or he's stronger or he's more talented or whatever, right? If you don't believe it, you can beat that guy, you've already lost the game. When you play football, you have to believe that.
Yeah, I think it's any sport. It's if you go in trying to compete, not in anything, if you go in with the mindset you don't know if you can win or you're not going to win, you're going to lose. If you go in with the mindset, the moment one thing goes wrong, it's over, you're going to lose. And I know this from I saw both sides of it. 0-12, every time any big moment in each game, you could see us deflate on the sideline. That's why it was easy for me to see it all these past years. The moment anything goes
wrong. FIU. That's all I'm going to say. FIU in your 0-12 season.
It's all of those games. So, and then you see the flip side of 2017, and you can even point to, like you said, the TCU game, Josh. That game specifically, they did not quit. They kept playing. They kept playing. Was it perfect football?
KJ didn't quit. KJ was not going to let TCU beat them.
It wasn't even perfect football. They made mistakes. They got field goals blocked. They got PATs. Like, that's a part of football. So that's what I wanted to see. And then you see in the year, something happens, deflated. Something else happens, deflated. Game over. We go to another game. We're playing well. Something bad happens, deflated. So I just think that culture is what ultimately, like you said, Ben, the culture of attack is what we saw from Frost that first time. That's what we want the second time. The wins and losses, those are just a byproduct of how the game, that just happens. People are going to win games, you will lose games. But we want to see, if we want to lose, we need to lose, emptying the clip. That's what I always say. Michael Jordan, you're not going to see him lose a game shooting 4 shots.
I feel like
that's not what's going to happen. If you're emptying the clip.
Now, we can't say that for the team. We can't say #emptying the clip, but we could say,
especially not that 2019 team, 2020.
Yeah.
Oh,
we could say the swag back, though. We could say the swag back, #swag back. Maybe we should start that in for this upcoming season. All right.
What was interesting about his first tenure here, though, Scott? I mean, that UCF Fast, UCF Fierce came in right away. I mean, it was like that branding. That branding was like it was before. I mean, it was
that
before
was DeSalvo
started.
That was DeSalvo and Danny White, though.
Well, I hear you, but I'm saying though, it's like that was our identity right away, and I don't know, like I maybe because of his experiences since leaving UCF, he's just kind of a little bit more close to the vest on like embracing that type of branding again.
Yeah.
And I'm not specifically talking about UC Fast and UC Fierce, like going right back to that branding. I'm just saying like he doesn't want to talk about their identity yet, but the hope is, and I think that you're saying this, Trey, like the hope is in that locker room an identity is forming really fast, and
Correct.
one that everybody is getting behind, and they're going to show it, come late August.
I
And
want
UC
Frost
Fast and UC
challenging.
Fierce.
I
It was
want-
never. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I want Frost challenging the team.
right.
Out there on the front, like he was behind the huddle, like in the huddle, behind the quarterback, saying you can do better, and saying I will do better. I win. I win. I won as a Nebraska player when he won the national championship. But I'm a winner. I want that. I don't want Frost who second guesses himself. I want Frost who came from Oregon and was like, hey, I'm gonna wipe the floor with everybody, and I want his team, because this is his team that he's building. I want his team to feel the same way.
Yeah, and that's what, like, we give the monikers, UC Fast and UC Fierce, but like
it's in our background.
But like we didn't think of ourselves when we were playing like that's how we identify. We were just like, if we're gonna lose, like I said earlier, we're leaving it all out there. We're not gonna come back and be like, oh, I wish I'd like. We're going to leave everything on the field. We're going to take our shot. Every chance we get to make a play, we're going to try to make a play. Does that mean 100% of the time we're going to make plays? No. You're going to get beat doing that, and they're going to get on Twitter and say, that was a horrible play. Why'd you do that? But then you're also going to make the splash play that changes the game. That's what we wanted. That was our locker room. That was our team culture, was somebody's going to make a play. We don't know who it is, but if we're all trying to make a play, it's got to be one of us. If we're all not trying to make a play, we know we're not going to make a play.
Here's the thing, Trey. Are you going to lay down, right? Because if you are that team that consistently says, hey, we're going to make a play, even if you're keeping it close, you don't win the game. There's always a danger to pull a rabbit out of a hat, right?
Yeah.
The team has the confidence. The other team doesn't, right?
Yep.
If they know that you're going to do that, and you could potentially pull the rabbit out of the hat anytime, and you come to the game with that swagger, you're going to do that. Even if you do that 3 out of 5 times, we lost a lot of games by 1 score last year. So if you win, I think when we looked at it, I think it was like 4 games that we should have won. 4 additional games that we should have won.
That could be 8. That could be 8 plays across 4 games.
Exactly.
Out of the hundreds of plays a game, if you make 2 more plays, that could be the difference between a win and a loss.
O'Leary
used to talk about that. We're never going to do that. Yeah.
O'Leary used to talk about that all the time.
Yep. Football is never
you will
going
not
across
make those plays if you do not have the confidence that you're going to make those plays. If you do not go with that intentionality out there that I'm going to make this happen, doesn't matter where it comes from. It doesn't matter where, if you do not have that intentionality, it's not going to happen. You've already lost the game.
Yep.
So,
and that's it. He used to literally tell us, if you're scared to make a play, you can't play here. He would tell everybody that. If you hesitate, you can do it once. But if you are consistently hesitant, you will never step foot on the field. You can't, because you cannot hesitate and fall into a play. Nobody's that lucky. People do crazy stuff and get lucky. Like, it's never, I'm just going to be safe and get lucky. That's not how it works in football. So.
All right. And on that note, let's go ahead and swim it once again.
Swim it.
Let's talk about the Florida Board of Governors just passed an amendment that will enable state schools to fund over $20 million per year and essentially cover their NIL rev share, right? So the only reason that there's not much to talk about there, we've talked about NIL and rev share. However, Florida is locked and loaded, and all the public schools are locked and loaded and able to execute on rev share. So that's another positive step in the right direction. Now, we do have some other UCF news that I'll bring up that's football related, but in the interim, I'm going to swim it one more time. If you're ready. Are you ready, Ben?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to swim it into some UCF baseball talk. Now, last week, we talked about that we were going to have for 2 weeks straight. I think we said we're going to have Ben talk about baseball. So Ben is back, and he is not only our basketball aficionado, and he's going to do a preview for us for basketball, but he's also quite the baseball fan. So Ben, why don't you talk a little bit about the baseball team, what you thought for this past year? Like what are the takeaways? What do you see coming down the pipeline? And what are you expecting for this coming season? And we will talk to Rich like we always do preseason. We usually get the first interview for him. Actually, I kind of want to do a postseason interview with him because I know he was frustrated. So I kind of backed off of that because the season, there's nobody more frustrated than Rich Wallace about how this past season went. But Ben, through your eyes, talk us through this past season, what you saw, and then what you see for the future.
I think Rich would tell you. I haven't talked to him in a little while, but I obviously he'd be the first to say it was a disappointing season. I mean, anybody who was paying attention, to UCF baseball this season was just, disappointed overall once we got into Big 12 play. I mean, we're 29-26 on the season. But
so still a winning record.
Yeah, still a winning season, but I mean, really where it came down to it is if you looked at our non-conference schedule, so obviously, first half of the season is all, for the most part, all non-conference games. And once we get into conference, then we still have some non-conference games during the week, and then conference games over the weekend series. But if you looked at our non-conference schedule, we were 20-5 as a team, so obviously against the, Siennas and
well, not just the Siennas, but
I understand that, Monmouth, but we also beat Florida. We beat Miami. We beat some really good teams. We won the weekend series against USF, or lowercase USF, the Cows.
The Cows.
And I'm glad that we're, at least for the foreseeable future, if Rich has anything to say about it, we're going to keep that series going because I like that series in the early season. But yeah, against Bryant, we had some good midweek games in the non-conference. Win against Missouri. Obviously, I already mentioned Florida and Miami. And it really looked promising. 19-5 overall, 20-5 overall in the non-conference. But it just, when it came to the Big 12 schedule this year, 9-21 in the conference, that's where we unfortunately faltered. And I think before this season started, even before we went on kind of like a run in the beginning of the year and we were starting to get votes and, in the D1 baseball top 25, like even before that, like before the season really started and you kind of looked at the makeup of this team and then what they had done previously, it looked like the additions to this team were certainly outweighing the losses that we had in 2024. And definitely, almost every statistical category we improved. But unfortunately, once it came to the Big 12 schedule, we just had a lot of late game kind of like weird things that would happen, untimely, we'd give up, hits that really hurt us coming out of the bullpen. Our pitching would give up some, tough hits or, weird plays that would happen. We would strand a lot on base. I think that was something that was starting to become a hallmark towards the end of the season, was just the amount of base runners that we would strand on base, who never seemed to be able to kind of have that timely hitting and string together those hits, which you just need in baseball. Baseball is just it's kind of a quirky game in the sense that when things are going wrong, it's hard to kind of put a finger on exactly what the main issue is. Statistically, when you look at our team, it's kind of fascinating because we're number one. If you looked at the overall stats, we're number one in the conference in batting average, number one in ERA, We were middle of the road in fielding percentage, but I don't really remember too many costly errors during some of the bad losses. It was mostly just, giving up that one or two big hits in crucial moments. But then you look at, that's the overall stats, right? So you start to sink a little bit. We're fifth in batting average and in the conference only stats. The pitching, which I think is the really, really telling part, ninth in ERA in the conference only stats. And then fielding percentage, again, kind of middle of the road. I don't think that we were necessarily a bad fielding team, especially up the middle. I mean, that was one of the things that Coach Wallace told us prior to the season, is that he was really confident in our fielding up the middle with, the addition of Diemes Ross in center field and Jimenez at shortstop, who you guys have all heard me rave about him. I think he's one of the best defensive shortstops in the game, and he proved some prowess at the plate as well. So overall, we had some good pieces this year. I think that where we were let down a little bit was some injuries in our starting pitching rotation. Never could quite figure that out, and just overall in the bullpen, outside of a few guys like Galvan and
what would have made the difference for us this year to put this team over the hump? Like, I know, like, our hitting, our clutch hitting, like overall our hitting percentages, our batting averages, all that stuff was significantly higher than what we've ever had. But what would have made this team? What would have put this team over the hump?
I think it sounds kind of easy for me to say, or simple for me to say, I should say. But I think that if we had a true ace, we just had a pitcher that we could point to say that's our guy starting on Friday night. There's no doubt about it. He's our main guy, and we had more health in our pitching staff, which is unfortunately something just like linebackers in football that we talk about every offseason. When we look back on UCF baseball seasons over the last decade, we are normally, if we're talking about kind of things to point to that we wish we would have done better, it just seems to be the health of the pitching staff, like them being.
But this wasn't
consistent.
Like, I agree with you, Ben, but I this wasn't like Greg Lovelady level of like pitching staff.
No, I don't mean that there was terrible injuries, but was there inconsistency and potentially the cause of some of that inconsistency from some of our main guys, like due to injuries that didn't necessarily keep them out of the game, but hampered them. I mean, I think that's a possibility that we don't know for sure, but obviously the players and the team know it for sure. So, I mean, I think that if you pointed to one single thing, it really was the pitching, just giving up some tough hits in really key moments, and it kind of becomes demoralizing over time. I mean, baseball is a really hard game, and when you lose a lot of close ones in a row, it just kind of has that effect when one thing goes wrong, that it has a snowball effect. I didn't really see too many like giving up throughout the season, but it's really difficult when it's kind of crumbling game after game like that. And it always seemed like towards the end of the season, specifically when we really needed to get some wins, that we just couldn't quite pull out those closer games. I mean, they seem to have, the other team that we're playing against would seem to have some sort of explosive inning. They'd score 2 big runs or 3 big runs, and all of a sudden that's just not enough for us to maintain the lead or maintain a close game at that point. So there are some tough ones down the stretch. I also say that, looking at the schedule, that we were pretty backloaded. We faced a lot of tougher teams down the stretch in West Virginia, Oklahoma State they weren't very good this year. I don't believe like overall. I have to double check on that because I'm forgetting now. But we had some tough teams down the stretch, and hey, we were able to win the last one, but unfortunately, it wasn't enough to make the Big 12 tournament, which I think is probably the most disappointing thing of all, is that we didn't give ourselves a chance in the postseason to even do something in the conference tournament, because that's where you always kind of like start anew and say, hey, whatever happened up until this point, we got a chance because we're in this tournament. And in baseball, not everybody makes the tournament, and we were left out this season. And so
it felt very much like football this year for baseball.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Except the only difference is while it won't last for long if these seasons are strung together. But I mean, it just obviously because of who he is and his history with this university, obviously nobody's sane is really looking at Rich Wallace yet. But, as far as being a disappointment, because this is only year 2. I mean, he surprised us all in year 1 by taking that team to the regional final.
Yeah.
And
anybody, let me say this, and I'm going to say this clearly. If anybody is looking at Rich Wallace right now, and granted, I know most of you guys know because we interview him and we have a relationship with him that, and I'm going to be completely transparent with that. If any of you think that Rich Wallace deserves to be on any kind of hot seat after this season, I'm sorry, but you need to go touch some grass. And
yeah,
I mean that way, but like realistically speaking, Rich Wallace is one of us, number one, and number
literally.
2, not
literally.
and he's had success everywhere that he's been, right? And that team the year before that you're talking about, a large part of why that team was successful is because Rich Wallace brought some guys in from his former recruiting stops, from Notre Dame, from other places. So I have the utmost faith, and I'll say this, I know I'm not going to be wrong, but if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll admit it, but 100% believe in Rich Wallace and what he's doing, not only for this team and what he has done and how he can coach it, but also what he's going to do in the future. So, Ben, do you see anything like future state that, we kind of gone over last week? We went over who our recruitment list is, but is there anything that sticks out to you that would say, hey, yes, we lost Sandifer to Florida, but is there anything that sticks out to you that says, hey, it's going to be different next year?
Yeah, I haven't been able to really keep up enough of the players coming and going. I mean, I know that really are probably Dylan King and Jimenez are probably our best draft prospects. Like if a team signs them away, that is that could happen. But I haven't really seen that except for just learning over the last couple of weeks just more about our top high school recruit that we have. And apologize if you guys talked about this last week, but Zachary Malvazio out of St. Thomas Aquinas. I mean, he made this past week, made first team All-State. He's a power hitting outfielder that's committed to us next season. He was 3rd in the nation in home runs this past year with 16 home runs. He batted .414. He had 48 RBIs. I mean, he's just a stud. So I think that's an addition to our lineup. I mean, he can pitch as well, but I doubt he's going to pitch in college. But he's going to be more of a right fielder. Hopefully develops into a cleanup hitter type guy for us. But that's the one new prospect that I noticed a lot about. And then
the transfers we kind of talked about before last week, right? But another one that I want to add to that list, since you talked about new prospects, is Malachi Boone. And you guys should know that name because he's a football commit. However, he also is a dual sport athlete. And I hope that he pulls a Jameis Winston, other than stealing crabs from Publix, right? Because
You
he
can
also,
say John Rice Plumlee instead of Jameis Winston, all right?
well, okay, JRP, fine, okay, but Malachi Boone also made it to the All-State baseball team in his state as well. So I don't know what the situation is there. Have you heard anything about Malachi Boone being a two-sport athlete? Because he is as successful as a baseball player as he is as a football player.
Yeah, you probably know more than me, Roger, on that front. I mean, obviously, I'm sure we could take all the help we can get there, but I'm not even sure what position he plays in baseball. But Malachi Boone does. But I think that if he's a great baseball player and one that can contribute, I'm sure that Wally will take a hard look at him and invite him to be a part of it, because we could use it. And I think that's also what I'm confident in. I'm confident that we're going to look back on the first 10 years, 8 years from now, we're going to look back on the first 10 years of Rich Wallace's tenure here, and we're going to see that this year was just a blip on the radar there. So
8 years from now, 10 years.
8
Okay.
years from now,
Yeah, that makes sense.
first
Okay,
decade,
all right.
Yeah.
All right.
I
It
said
took me a
10 years
second.
and then tenure in the same sentence, so I get it. But
I was doing the math, and I'm like,
so he's an outfielder, first baseman. There we go. The Malachi Boone is, but yeah. So definitely I hope we can get some help on that front. I mean, we did have a steady, first baseman all season this past year that, and Lex Bodeker is basically in my opinion, one of my favorite players to play for UCF in the last decade. So, we're gonna need to replace him as well. So,
yeah, the Lex Flex was consistent, and he turned out to be a pretty good first baseman too. So,
yeah,
I hope for his sake. I mean, he's a guy that's going to definitely go. In the minor leagues. I hope he gets his shot. So, all right, let's go ahead and swivot away from baseball and talk a little bit more football. And no swivets in the room. I did
for the visual.
Tom is joining Memphis as well. That was the one thing we didn't mention.
Yes. I had that on there as well. So, before we move on from baseball, I did want to point that out because one of the things we had talked about during the season was how Rich Wallace actually came out of the dugout and started doing it, because Ted Tom, he's been a mainstay here at UCF for a long time. But the base running this year was abysmal. And he was third base coach, and he was the one who was sending people, etc. And we lost some games on that, on some over aggressive base running. So, anything you want to say about that before we swiv it?
No, it was just a mention that obviously, like you said, he was with this. He's been an assistant coach at UCF for a long time. I mean, he was on Lovelady's staff for for almost his whole tenure, I believe, and then he was a holdover, obviously, from that staff, and somebody that I know Rich Wallace trusted a lot, had a great relationship with. He wanted him to stick around. And then now he's moving on to Memphis, and, wish him well. Certainly, I think that outside of, the third base coach, some mishaps there this year, I think he's been a great overall coach for us. And wish Ted Tom well. I've talked with him a few times. He's always been a very, very good guy to talk to. And he's always been nice to my kids and my family. And I wish him well.
Yeah, I wish him well too, but I think it was time after this past season.
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and swiv it. All right, there we go. Wisconsin sues Miami.
Yes.
In the first poaching lawsuit ever. So in the first of its kind, and perhaps, something that will you'll see more often, Wisconsin is seeking unspecified damages, which means a lot of money, transparency, and accountability. So not only are they asking for money, they're saying, Miami, you need to be real about what you did for interfering for a binding contract. So this goes back to, this is contract law at this point, folks. This is no longer college sports. This is contract law. These are professional athletes shared between Wisconsin and Xavier Lewis. He was a defensive back who left the program in January to go to Miami. And it was the first time that this has happened. Like two Power 4 programs are going after each other. Miami, we know, interferes. I mean, they did it with UCF football players. We know that. But this is the first time that anybody has actually filed a lawsuit. And let's be real, folks. We're talking about this rev share. We're talking about this NIL and all this other stuff that's going on. We've heard it ad nauseum over the past 3 or 4 seasons where people are talking about, hey, you play a game against someone else. And UCF has done this too. So let me say this about that. UCF has absolutely played other teams and has said something to players as they're going off the field that they saw were good and said, hey, how about coming to UCF next year? You know what I mean? That's absolutely
like that, exactly like that.
100%. Yeah, this is the 1901 version of UCF players. Hey, see
the Yankees versus the White Sox.
Number 2,
10 innings, and
Eric
Babe Ruth is at the plate. But anyway, the point is that yes, UCF has done this. If any of you have your blinders on and think that UCF has not played this game, I'm sorry, you're 100% wrong. However, this is the first time that Miami has been called out, which is probably one of the most blatant offenders when it comes to interfering. And now we're talking about contract law. Folks, these are professionals. And when you have professionals and you have multi-million-dollar contracts, we're literally talking about multi-million-dollar contracts. Schools are not going to take it anymore. It's F around and find out. And guess what? Miami found out. Miami knew that they had a contract with Wisconsin, right? And so you've got general managers out there that are managing this. You've got a ton of money, not just booster money anymore, but also university money. You're going to see more of these contracts. You're going to see more of these lawsuits, and you're going to see more of these universities, and not just the universities, but also their state legislatures pushing for this kind of thing. And guess what? Those contracts, just like in business, I'm going to put it in my home county, which means you're going to be screwed if you play this type of game. And Miami effed around, and now they're finally finding out because they are being listed with intentional interference. And Wisconsin is not just going after the money. They're saying, you need to admit that you effed up. You need to admit how you screwed us in open court. So this is not just about this lawsuit is not just about the money. It's also about pointing out how Miami, guess what? You're getting drugged through it because of what you did. And, FSU's the same way. FSU's been doing that for years with UCF. UCF has been doing that with AAC teams, unfortunately, or other teams that we've played, right? But not the FSUs of the world. But I'm telling you this right now. This is going to be more commonplace now that NIL/rev share is there, because now it's university money. It's not just the donors' money that we're playing with now. We're also talking about university money, and to the tune of $20 million of the university's money, right? So again, words like intentional interference, not justified or privileged, caused, and they're not going to put this on the player. They're going to put this on the university, right? Caused breach of contract. So get used to this, right? Because it's going to happen. And schools like Miami, schools like SMU, schools like, and I'm going to call Texas Tech, 100%, $41 million worth of, or $55 million worth of, of NIL budget. So Lee Hunter, look no further than Lee Hunter for something like this, right? those schools are going to start to get called out. So it's not just about the commission we talked about last week, right? It's not just about the governing bodies that are there, but schools are now talking about multi-million-dollar contracts with student athletes, air quotes, for those of you that are listening and not viewing, right? You're talking about multi-million-dollar contracts. That breach of contract, they're going to start going to court. And this is the very first one. So this sets precedent. Wisconsin, as they go through this process, and this is not like some rando school, right? This is the University of Wisconsin. So they've got the means, they've got the political clout, and their contract was for darn sure advantageous to them as to where the venue was. This is going to continue to happen. So those of you that are fans, those Kane fans that talk about how what's his name? What's his name down in Miami?
Diaz.
Yeah, Diaz, who's got his swax or whatever they're called. Guess what? These days are over because it's now contract law. All right, that's all I'm going to say about that. Do you guys want to add anything to that? But I think that's huge. I think that's a huge because again, this is going to set precedent for case law. Is there anything you guys want to add to that?
You're going to see tortious interference all over the place if this goes well, because the reality is this has been happening. This has been happening all the time.
For years.
And you talked about the difference. The difference is now like these are binding contracts. This isn't just we're giving you a scholarship, which has a lot of value, but we're talking about contracts. Just imagine if you own a business, or you are a partner of a business, or you are a part of a business, and your competitors basically are coming in and not even just like, hey, we have a new job offer, and then maybe sliding in the DMs, but like literally going after and poaching to the extent that they're interfering with the contracts they're having in employment. Does that happen? Yes. Does it happen like it's happening in college sports? Probably only in rare occasions, right? For instance, Facebook put out $100 million worth of signing bonuses to pull people away from OpenAI and some other companies. They're putting it out there. We have money. And truth be told, a lot of people from OpenAI are not moving. So that's one thing you can do. Texas Tech can say, hey, we got $55 million. Listen to us. Chat with us. But not when not unless you as the talent can break the contract you're currently in. And that's going to be, it's the sad part is that a lot of these are they're just young people.
Dude, they all have agents. If you're talking about the Lee Hunters of the world, they have agents, so they're going to need to adjust to that.
We got to use that in air quotes.
Let's pause there. Let's pause there. Seriously, I want to stop it there because it is no longer. They are clearly defined as agents at this point under the new regulations. So it's no longer the advisors thing. It's none of
they're official.
A lot of this stuff is, it's official. They're going to have to report to the IRS that way. Like they are literal agents. So one of the good things about this lawsuit going through is this is clearly defined now. There's not.
That's what I was going to say is the guidelines and regulations, like we all kind of, even 6 months ago, but even today, we're still kind of like chuckling at, hearing the word like, enforcement and guidelines and things like that when it comes to anything involving the NCAA or college athletics, I should say. But but this is where those guidelines really do come into play, because before, one of the biggest deterrents of a school like Wisconsin calling out Miami is that they don't want to get their own department looked at. I'm not just specifically talking about Wisconsin. I'm talking about any school school A calling out school B. The reason why that wasn't happening before this, as you said, unprecedented lawsuit, is because if you're school A, you don't want to call out school B because you don't want another school to be looking into your dirty laundry. And
Everybody was doing it.
That's what I'm saying. Like everybody was doing
Ray,
this,
how many other than cookie cakes? What else were you getting?
That's all I was getting.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like everybody was doing it, so like therefore you didn't want to call anybody else out because you didn't want anybody, opening any doors or windows in your living room. But regardless, it's because the guidelines are there now, and because, as you said, the contracts are in writing and advantageous to those who are writing them, maybe not those who are signing them. It's advantageous to them as well because they're getting a boatload of money. But but still, I think that's where this comes into play, where it's no longer a game, and if you break these contracts, there's going to be potentially some penalties to you as the athlete, but most importantly for the schools trying to take advantage or trying to skirt the guidelines, there's penalties for those schools as well. And I like that in this case, Wisconsin is holding Miami accountable more so than it's just Miami. I like Miami being held accountable for anything, but by the same token, I'm glad that they're being made an example of, and I hope Wisconsin wins this lawsuit so we can see more of this, because less of them can, less of these rule breakers will happen across the country.
Okay. Yeah, I 100% think that this is the beginning and not the end, right?
Yeah, so, agreed.
This is right. Super excited about that. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think this is a good thing. All right, let's go ahead and swib it one more time.
Swib it.
All right, since we don't have Nobra, I have to do the band myself. So let's talk a little bit about let's talk a little listener love. So first of all, I'm gonna throw this out there. Did you know that the second highest number of listeners and viewers that we have are actually from Canada? So I'm going to give a quick shout out to Canadian Brainrot 09. So to our feral Canadians that are out there, a quick shout out to you, because we actually do have a lot of Canadians that watch the show, believe it or not, which is awesome. So we told you last month we had about 17,000 viewers. 5% of those were Canadians. So that was pretty exciting. So shout out to Canadian Brainrot 09, because you responded with an upside down smiley face thing. So I will have to say that. Next, I want to give a quick shout out to Madame Boutique. She is a frequent commenter. She says the 22, which means 4-4 for the SEC. This is regarding the playoffs. And Big Ten may be better for us in the short term, but what it is also doing is submitting that we are a lower conference and giving Big Ten, I'm going to fill this in, Big Ten and SEC more fuel to continue to separate. So yes, getting 2 would be better than what we will probably have in the 11, meaning the SEC and Big Ten. We'll still get there 4 in and then maybe more. The problem is we'll be giving up our platform to fight for more in the long term, and that's the biggest downside. In the long game, we don't stand a chance if we lay down now. I get it for UCF, 2 is better, but if you're Brett Yormark and you're trying to continue to fight for second place or true third place, you don't want to give up ground, and officially saying yes would be better. This is a long one. And we're just going to stick with third, which is really like 6th in this massive gap between 1, 2, 3, etc. So my response back to that was, I agree from the conference's perspective. When we discussed this a few weeks ago, the thought is that the ACC is going away anyway for the most part in 2030, and we could consolidate the bids from there. It is a risk, and you are right. So let me shout this out. So Madame Boutique, first of all, thank you for the response. Secondarily, I will say that when it comes to the playoff, we talked about this, and Terry Mahajer came out and said, hey, we're just doing the 5 plus 11. Like, that's what we're going to back. And that may be the right thing for the short term until the ACC gets figured out. So you're right. I'll concede that. But at the end of the day, no matter what, if there is a decision made, and that's the way that we have to go to make sure that we are playing ball and maintaining our status as the third power conference when the ACC ultimately gets stripped, then I'm okay with the 4-4-2-2, whatever, because ultimately we'll pick up those other two, and it will become 4-4-4. So,
I don't think he's going to do that.
Well, we'll see. I mean, right
I
now,
hope it does. I think, to me, the Big Ten and the SEC they're scheming to get ahead now, so that when that happens, those two are going to be auto bids again, or they're just going to add it to them. That's what I think they're going to do.
All right, awesome. Well, I think that is the concern, right? The concern is that that's what's going to happen. So maybe the safer bet is going 5-11, like Terry has come out and said he supports, until we figure out what's going to happen with the ACC. But if it's forced, I'd rather be on the side of the SEC and the Big Ten than to be the ACC the first time around, with the alliance and get screwed, especially with ESPN behind the SEC. Next, we have Pittstoner 1974. We will have no idea how good we are by UNC. I'm assuming you mean after UNC, but that's not the litmus test. I'm not expecting them to be good either. So that kind of goes back into the conversation we were talking about with Bill Belichick and what we think, they're going to be. And I think there's a lot of distractions there. So we'll see. But it says, I think Josh meant after UNC for sure. Thank you for listening and commenting. As always, we appreciate you. Pittstoner 1974 again responds to another. I think this is a short, but let me say this. We appreciate you, Pittstoner 1974, longtime listener, continues to comment. Please continue to comment. I didn't know Minnesota was considered a top educational school. Never heard them mentioned with GT, Stanford, or Vandy in that regard. My response, number 54 in national universities, being in the Big Ten, required outside of Nebraska losing their status membership in the AAU. They're a pretty good school. Academically, UCF has made strides, but we are 121, but we're not there yet. So, UCF will get there at some point. It wasn't too long ago, we were in the 180s when we were in the AAC. So that will continue to get better, but Minnesota is a pretty darn good school. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the Big Ten. Now, did they benefit from being in the Big Ten? Yes, because they've been a long-time member of the Big Ten. However, it is what it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say this real quick. I do want to say this. Continue to like, subscribe, like we talked about, comment. We do appreciate the comments that you put in here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for viewing. Tell your friends. We do communicate with you back, and we will clearly bring it back up in the show. So continue to comment there. All right, let's go ahead and swiv it one more time. Swiv it. All right. We're gonna go to Alan's Oxymoronic stat of the week. We missed you last week, Alan. I'm excited. You kind of previewed this. What is your Oxymoronic stat of the week this week?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, I don't know why my video is turned off, but all right. So I wanted to compare, as I previewed earlier, Frost's first recruiting class when he first got here in 2016, and then 10 years later here in 2026, kind of what that looks like. Obviously, this class is not complete yet, so it's not apples to apples. There's only 12 recruits and still a lot of time versus 2016. Obviously, that's complete and had 21. And obviously, the biggest difference is that we were in the AAC back then versus now in the Big 12. But just some kind of raw data to start. So, as I mentioned, 21 recruits in the 2016 class. Interesting enough, the most taken position in that class was defensive line, offensive line, and defensive back. Right now, pretty much all the positions are tied. There's almost 2 at every single position besides tight end and running back where there's one. So not a ton to glean from there. But overall, there was 10 on offense, 11 on defense, and 16. And right now there's 6 on offense, 6 on defense now. So we're kind of trending in that same direction, kind of with an even split. One thing I did kind of find interesting was in that first class, there was 2 QBs taken, obviously Mackenzie Milton and then Garrett Krusek. And then right now in this class, we have 2 QBs so far as part of this 2026 class. Ranking wise, UCF in 2016 finished number 66 in the country, according to 247. And right now we are number 57. So not too far off just from a raw kind of, national ranking. I'm sure that will change this year for us by the end of the class. Then this is where it gets a little bit more specific and I think is a little bit more telling. So in that first class, there was 21 final recruits and 13 were from the state of Florida. This year, out of 12 so far, only 4 are from the state of Florida. So about 66% of the class has come from outside of the Sunshine State. Then in terms of, what was that?
I think you were listening to yourself on feedback.
Yeah. All right. So then when it comes to just ranking, there was 4 top 100 recruits overall in 2016, top 100 in-state recruits, whether they're from Florida or from Georgia, just 4 players that ranked in the top 100 in their respective state. So far this year, where you have 7 players that are ranked in the top 100 in their respective state. And I thought this was the really kind of telling one because, Roger, you mentioned we better be recruiting at a higher level now. Well, according to 247, there was only 4 out of 21 players in 2016 that were ranked as an 85 or above. This year, 11 out of 12 of our prospects are ranked as an 85 or above. So clearly the echelon of recruiting has gone up when pretty much our entire class is, just out of 12 players is already significantly better than a class of 21, and at least in terms of just on paper ranking. But something to be said, 4 of those guys that were under an 85 were actually a 79 or below in that 2016 class were Richie Grant, Tristan Hill, Bam Moore. So that's pretty telling that 3 of those names end up being some of the best or better recruits of the class. But still early on, but on paper, it does look like we're trending much, much, much better. But there's also a lot of similarities between the 2 classes as well, just in terms of positions and things like that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with what you said there. Obviously, we've upped our game. For those of you that are looking at just recruiting rankings, remember these are juniors, so they have not hit their senior year to hit their full potential yet on the recruiting standpoint. We talked to Trey about his point of view from a recruiting perspective. So very interesting data, but obviously there's a lot of 5.7s out there, but we obviously are upping our game. We've got 12 so far, right? And there'll be more to come as far as high school recruiting is concerned. Don't panic yet. Scottfrost is looking all over the country and scouring for people that we were looking for that will match our system and what we're looking for. So it's not just about the recruiting rankings as it was with Gus Malzahn. We all saw how that went. So let's go ahead and swib it. Thank you. We've got we're coming up on 2 hours. So Josh, what is your sometimes funny fact of the week?
So we're at the point where there's not too much sports to talk about. So I'm just going to do some UCF trivia for the next couple of weeks. Let's just do a really easy one to start out. What was the first building on UCF's campus?
Was it Coburn Hall? No, it wasn't. It was the admin building, wasn't it?
Let's see. We have Coburn admin. We have an
So are you talking about admin or are you talking about like classrooms?
Physical building on campus.
I think admin was the first one.
Okay.
I'm gonna Yeah, I'm just gonna agree with Roger on that one, I guess.
All right, Trey, Allen.
I have no idea. Classroom 1.
Oh, I was gonna say that. That's what I was saying.
It was not
Classroom
Classroom 1. I can tell
I
you
know
that.
that's the wrong answer, but that's
Classroom 1 was being built when I
know.
brand new.
You guys are all youngs. Okay, this is actually it's slightly interesting. Most people think it's the John Hitt Administration Building, right? It actually is not. It's the utility building. They needed a utility building before they could build the administration. So everyone,
Bro, are you seriously
Listen.
going with the utility building right now?
that
I mean,
is the first
seriously.
structure that was built on UCF's campus. Yes,
Oh,
it probably still looks like it's there. We'll do some more. I have some other old trivia. So if anyone's listening to this in post, we got some stuff from the 60s and 70s to come up.
All right, awesome. All right, let's go ahead and swim it once again. All right, on a quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch, what do you have for us right now? Because we're kind of in the dead period right now, Josh.
I actually have three things. Alan doesn't watch women's basketball, and they added two coaches, Anne-Marie Gilbert and Stephen Key. And they have over 50 years of experience from college to the WNBA. Anne-Marie is most recently was the associate head coach of Winthrop and had head coaching stints at Detroit, Virginia Union, and East Michigan. Stephen was an assistant coach and then promoted to head coach for the Chicago Sky, was also an assistant coach in the Connecticut Sun and Indiana Fever. He spent the last 6 years in Germany as both an assistant coach for a team and 2 years as a head coach in the European Professional League.
All right, I want to add to this. Having played in semi-pro in Europe and specifically in Germany, fundamentals are extremely important there. They're going to learn how to pass the ball, they're going to learn how to shoot the ball, and they're not going to play the American style of basketball. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. And it was yes, definitely. 9 rowers landed on the CRCA scholar athlete list. And I'm not going to name them all because it's a lot. To be eligible, just so you know, you have to be 9. It's a lot.
9.
Is this a German thing? You have to be in the second year of eligibility and hold a 3.5 or higher at the end of the fall semester. And you have to race 75% of the spring races in an NCAA eligible vote or race in an NCAA eligible vote at the conference championship. So that's really, really good. We also have Kinga Kazimierska, an incoming freshman for the UCF women's golf team, made history on Thursday by winning the 13th Annika Invitation Europe Championship. The first, recruit or player ever in school history to accomplish such a feat. She won it with a birdie on hole 18, which is nice, in a golf club in Sweden. She's earned an invitation to the 2026 Women's Amateur Championship.
Okay, so number 1 on the notes, amateur spelled wrong, but number 2.
The whole thing is spelled wrong. I someone must have played with that because that was this anonymous.
You totally skipped over the Box Skolgens golf club in there, so I'm super upset about that. That being said, where's she from?
I think she is from Poland. She's
okay.
From Poland.
All right. Awesome. Well, that'll do it for us this week. So thank you, Josh, for doing that. I love how you put the phonetic spelling into the week. So that is appreciated.
UCF, put it in all your stuff. Well, I had to research this one. I researched it deeply. I didn't research it. So I skipped it.
But this is the kind of stuff you kind of want to hold on till Andrew gets back on the show, because it's always fun to watch Andrew try to, or listen to Andrew try to say these things. That being said, thank you everyone for following along. Thank you for participating. Thank you for the comments. Please continue those. Tell your friends. We appreciate everything that you do. And go Knights and
charge on.
Charge on, baby. 17,000 viewers. Let's go.
Bartram Trail is in Arkansas. Why is it also a high school in Jacksonville? What's going on? What is this?
What's Bartram?
Yeah.